you about something else.
Yes. Yeah.
That's crazy.
So I'm more careful now about what.
Yeah. Max Headroom. My dad used to call it Max Headroom. That's the only reason I know what that is.
Max Headroom and VR5. They actually, I think they played back to back.
Oh, really? That's
Get all.
Oh, we
Yeah.
gotta keep in that. Okay.
That's the mics are live now. I
So
won't say what I was going to say.
Yeah, I gotta stop about how I don't know access programming. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey guys. Thank you guys for coming. First off, thank you guys for coming and thank you for being patient with us while we figure out the tech side of things. Also, I think points to Rufus for guessing the month, doing the Artemis book literally the day before the launch. That we get total guess on that timing worked out perfectly. Although, so raise of hand, anybody raise your hand if you went to go see Project Hail Mary, another Andy Weir project. Okay, yeah, a couple hands. So it's good, worth seeing. You loved it? Okay, so you would recommend it? Yeah. Okay. Are you somebody who has to read the book before you see? I think you could see the movie and read the book still. You think so? Okay. That's the official Books Booth review, Project Hail Mary. Go see it. Because I will say I haven't read the book. But I will go see the movie and then read the book.
It's soon on my list.
Really?
I got both of them at the same time.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then perfect timing. Project Hail Mary. Yeah. Still, I think it's still in theaters. Not an ad. Was not paid for this. I just, yeah, I was gonna say just like, 2 weeks ago. So it's still out. But so anyway, hello to everybody here. Thank you guys so much for coming out. We're just getting into it. Barrett, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Barrett. No.
Hi, Barrett.
I'm Barrett Caldwell. I'm a professor of industrial engineering and aeronautics and astronautics at Purdue. I spend a lot of time doing space stuff.
Official title, space stuff.
Space stuff guy, yes. So I've spent 24 years as the director of the NASA Indiana Space Grant Consortium, which means NASA pays me sometimes to do stuff like this.
Like this? What is this?
Public communication of science.
Oh, okay,
and STEM engagement. And it is one of my favorite things. And because it's one of my favorite things, I brought you all treats.
I was going to say, y'all.
All y'all? I mean, when I had to spend some time in Texas, I would learn the difference between y'all and all y'all. So I brought all y'all some treats, okay? So I realized that we are officially 33% through the year.
Okay.
But I've got calendars. Really? Calendars. Please take
a stack, a thick stack.
And in honor of the launch tomorrow, I also have Artemis stickers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It came out of the bag and I said, okay.
And should we tell them about this?
That depends. Do you want good answers? Good questions?
I do want good questions. So, good questions get swag.
NASA swag.
NASA swag.
This is legit.
So this is how I get to drink beer at work. Yeah. Okay. So, thank you, Allison. Thank you, Rufus.
What do you mean, thank you? Thank you for coming and bringing all your swag. I'm glad you're the guest expert that brought swag on our last book that maybe would have been a little awkward. For context, our last book was Bonk, and it was about sex. So I'm real glad you're the one who came with the goods, because that would have been a whole different conversation. Well, now, but since you're here, our last book was about sex research. We ended on Sex and Space. And I said, well, hold that thought. I got a guy. And I got a guy. I think with answer to assuming those people on the moon. I know on the International Space Station, all the zero gravity, no sex allowed. Can't do it. Not supposed to do it. I think it's still happening.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
This is why I'm talking to you. This is why I hate talking to you. Is that something that you have to think about as an engineer?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, from the engineering perspective, from the physiology perspective, from the socio-emotional, psychological perspective, are you actually going to put healthy adults in a spot for a long time and have them be good? It's a different version of, but one of the challenges is that the forces required to move your entire body from spot to spot on the space station is basically the strength of one finger pushing against the wall. So you can imagine enthusiastic activity not paying attention would lead to bouncing. Right, so you would probably have to strap yourself in. Don't no.
No.
Or talk to me later.
Okay, to think about.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about long-term space travel, flight, and colonization of the moon, all of the above.
And in fact, these are questions. Actually, I just got someone to ask me the question, and it's, I put work to work on that problem about what would a lunar colony look like if scan.
First standing out, disconnect.
That is some people in game is also a continue. What would happen if a really bad day on Earth kept from being able to continue to run?
Yeah, because I guess you would want to. If I got stuck here and Earth I would still be able to survive.
We would be able to survive. That would be the question. Yes.
Is that and that's a fundamental question then in establishing some sort of broadly referring to a colony. Is that the right word?
Base.
Okay.
Or temporary camp or a colony are sort of evolutions of how able to live off the land you are. So it's like the difference between a Winnebago and an RV park and a town.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So then, what we're talking about, like in real life, in our universe, we're talking about like a base.
Yeah.
And then this is far in the future. We established colony.
Right. So one of the fun things about this Artemis story is that as I was reading it, it reminds me a lot of Robert Heinlein's The Moon is a Harsh Mistress, which is about 70 years old now, but a lot of the same theme coming up, and a lot of the same social and cultural discussions are coming up about what happens when you get from base to colony.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, too, to hear you really get that, I think, from Jazz's perspective, where she's like, I don't identify with Earth. I don't identify with any of that culture. Like, Artemis is its own culture. I identify as a person of this. I don't, obviously deported back home. And she's like, yeah, I was till the end of the book that her dad is. Oh no! I need to just. Just really solve my thing.
That's my.
We just have to get really. Let's, we were talking a little. You were talking about what you think and what really the one glaring issue, glaring problem you think Andy got wrong, and that was about.
I don't want to say it's completely wrong because
That's true.
the book. But early on, in Jazz's first EVA, and be really careful about how many spoilers I'm supposed to put. But in her first, how many of you read the book?
All right, we yeah.
So she makes a comment. The Apollo missions was about 3.5 days. There is some concern about whether or not the suits and the lunar module would have been able to handle living in the lunar environment for much more than about a week, given the level of abrasive damage that was just collected everywhere.
Yeah.
And so this is where I get to spend a little bit of time bragging on Purdue. Right?
Okay.
So we do have the glory of the first and the most recent man on the moon. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Neil Armstrong and Gene Cernan. When
Okay.
Gene Cernan gave some of his papers, including some of the papers that flew to the moon, to our flight archives, it still had dust on it.
Oh wow.
Because it gets on the thing.
It just clings.
And then just clings to the thing.
Oh.
Okay, and it got onto the suit and into the suit and onto the underwear and into the underwear.
Oh no, it's worse than sand.
It is much worse than sand because at least sand, if it's old, will get worn kind of smooth.
Oh yeah.
But there's nothing to wear the sand smooth on the moon. So it's still raggedy, what's called a grooveness. It's raggedy, it's sharp, it's brutally edgy, and it's everywhere. And yeah, it's very, very dangerous.
So you turn into sandpaper. Enough time on the moon, that dust collects your sandpaper.
It starts at sandpaper, gets worse.
Oh, gets worse than paper.
Yeah, because sandpaper is still relatively big, and the finer the sandpaper, the smaller the grit.
Yeah.
Imagine slightly bigger grit that doesn't wear down, and that's what
it's not wearing down. Yeah.
Okay, because it's basically how many of you had to exfoliate your heels or something with a pumice stone?
Yeah.
Okay, take that pumice stone, take a hammer to it, and then rub it on your face. Okay. That's the sort of situation we're talking about.
So, what is the solution? Humidity? in like a base?
No, the best stuff that I've seen so far is vacuum or blowing combined with reverse polarity electrostatics. So basically, if you're already charged positive, if there was something that you could touch that was charged negative, so that you would balance out the charge, and then the dust would fall off.
That was when he talks about when they come back in from the EVA missions and they have the cleaning protocol. That's probably part of that.
That's part of the cleaning protocol, because you wouldn't start with the water. You would start with getting as much of it off you by the static.
Okay, that makes sense.
Discharge, yeah.
That makes sense.
But you want it to be well behaved. So if you're going to do the static discharge, you would want like a negative pressure system so that it would be whisked away from you instead of just blown out
everywhere. Yeah. Okay. So do you feel like otherwise though, Andy stays pretty true to the science and quote reality of what lunar life would be?
Oh.
You can say no. You can tell Andy to his face. The movie's still in production. Give him some notes.
You know, I didn't get invited to any premieres of The Martian. I mean, I kind of look like I kind of look like the mission director, but they didn't send me.
And they haven't cast you as the mission director for Artemis. Come on.
Bethesda Games has done a lot better job with me than Andy Weir's world.
Okay, we'll have to put a note in. Hey, I'll put a note in.
Please do that. But seriously, the question about how realistic is Artemis base, Artemis colony?
Yeah.
Let's say that it's plausible. There's several design choices that I wouldn't make.
Design.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the big ones that we were talking about before we went live is what's the right balance for your atmosphere? And in the Artemis story, he actually makes a reasonably good point to say 20% oxygen and nothing else is not a bad idea because it reduces the atmospheric pressure difference between you and vacuum. And that means there's less depressurized time when you're going out.
Yeah.
There's less of a chance of the bends.
Yeah, that's bad.
Spoiler alert, that's probably one of the reasons why Jazz is still alive at the end of the book. Because if she was going from Earth normal pressure to her little exploration of the surface, in addition to all of the other stuff with the radiation and the vacuum and the lunar regolith straight on the skin, there is that thing about the exploding lung problem.
Seems like a problem. My unexpert opinion.
Wouldn't recommend.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So that is a decision that we've talked about. We, as if I were there and if I were doing it. But the spaceflight, space systems engineering community has gone back and forth on that ever since Mercury and Voshkov about do we go lower pressure, higher partial pressure of oxygen, or higher pressure, lower partial pressure of oxygen, because 100% oxygen environment kind of makes you nervous if there's ever sparks. His discussion of it's the same total amount of oxygen as we would have on Earth means that a fire there would be like a fire here. I see where he's going. I'm not sure I completely believe that.
Okay, that's fine.
Because you don't have anything other than the oxygen. So your burning up oxygen someplace would actually then reduce the net pressure of the space that you are. because if you're taking the oxygen out of the air, here it's like 80% stuff that you don't really care about, but it's still there to maintain overall atmospheric pressure.
Yeah.
If you're burning oxygen on the moon at 100% oxygen, 200 kilopascals. I'm not sure that goes as well as he suggests it would.
Well, hey, we'll give him the leeway.
Okay.
We'll throw you that bone, Andy.
Yeah.
But
so, I mean, that part is right. Having more, one of the things that I really like is having more sizes of suits. So there's a really important part where Jazz's suit is too small for somebody else. And that does make sense because right now, and you will remember a couple of years ago, there was an all-female spacewalk that had to get delayed because they didn't have enough of the right size of suit. So I've actually seen the presentation that some of the folks at Crew Safety and Security have done on what is the right sizing of spacesuit parts. So you've got a helmet part, you've got a torso part, you've got gloves, and you've got legs, and you've got boots. And the original version of how big to make them was based on military test pilots that were all male. And then when you got to expand it to other mission specialists, they added the male part of the anthropometry, the people sizing, even though you have people like Nancy Curry-Gregg, who is significantly shorter than I am. And so finding a suit that she could use became a really big deal.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of like logistical challenges, even just to giving everyone the opportunity. Having clothes that fit and a place that they can be comfortable, yes, yeah,
is a big deal.
Yeah. I want to open this up, maybe not as much as a turn and talk, but to ask open floor to talk to Barrett. Open floor to talk to Barrett. If there's any other aspects of the Artemis colony that you want to ask about, or that you felt maybe weren't realistic, or were realistic, and you were like, "Wow, that makes a lot of sense." Yeah.
There were two things that I found part of the problem.
Okay.
Jay's right underground for a while with the aliens.
Yeah.
It's said to be 2,000 people. I think that when a spaceship came, they knew every person that got off.
Yeah.
They knew every person that got on, and they knew every person who was there. I don't think you could disappear and suddenly reappear as somebody else.
Point when she comes up with these aliens, she had like multiple too. Yeah, that she's like, "Oh, I just created a new person." And you're right; they would for sure know how many people in. It's addition. We're adding and subtracting. Someone at Artemis is doing that math.
And then the technical thing, I didn't understand the gerbil balls.
The gerbil balls.
Oh,
yeah,
the
for
hamster
tour.
balls. Yeah, the hamster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I think that was one of the is of a good suggestion. How would you let someone be able to picture on the moon and not in under 10 minutes? Oh, it's a
clear.
heavy grade
Yeah,
polymer.
it wouldn't be like a window.
Yeah, so I believe I've seen something like this on like Fear Factor or American Ninja or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, you pressurize up the ball, and they can walk around or move around, but you would keep it someplace that's relatively flat and relatively free of sharp boulders or anything, because as we find out, puncturing one of those really ends your tourist visit very quickly.
Yeah, makes the tour of the. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they probably cleared off and cleaned up real real smooth, real glass. Like,
And that would be easy enough because if you've got the smelting and all the other things, you would be doing sintering work that you would be able to take some of these areas and then heat them up and then fuse them together because it's basically like fusing sand and other silicates into glass. So you could turn it into a really nice,
make it smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else anybody wanted to?
yeah, but I think he can get a bag for the hamster ball question.
Oh, yeah, right. We can untangle that. We can come grab it. Or you can come grab it now.
No,
I was going to ask a question on sort of the report. Jazz was very worried about getting deported back to, down to Saudi Arabia. And her big thing was the gravity sickness and all that sort of thing. So how would someone, if they were born on the moon, adapt to the heavier gravity of Earth?
yeah, so three elements of that. I actually thought that was a very good series.
Oh, you thought his description of like gravity sickness and her fears of being deported?
Well, not just that, but actually describing the population and how the cultural mix of people came to be. So Jasmine came to the moon with her father at age 6, which was the youngest that you were allowed to at the time. There's a lot of developmental concerns of if you gestate and do early infancy in the absence of Earth gravity, it's not clear that you would ever be able to return to Earth.
Yeah.
So the idea of, they think that you could leave as early as 6, and then there's a comment about, they upped the age to 12 because there's some additional physiology work that had been done to show, you really need to start on puberty and where your bone development and blood development are before you start playing with gravity. Yeah. But so if she came to the moon at age 6, before her growth spurt, she is now taller than she would have been because of the expansion of the spine. She has not experienced
compression.
The compression of Earth gravity at any point in her adult or pubescent life. So, not at all joking, one of the questions that Allison and I were talking about, would that even be considered a human rights violation or a crime against one's personal integrity to be forced to go back to the Earth if one's body is not set up in order to be able to handle it? So it's like 6 times the gravity. So imagine whatever you're used to now, you would have to then experience 6 times your weight.
Just standing.
Just standing.
Just it.
Just moving. Just being able to lift your arms. But that is 6 times more, and your bones were never built to take it. So that's really a big concern for Jazz.
Yeah, and I also brought up the heart and cardiac stuff too. I think even if you adapted, you're just from what we know about how space and microgravity and lack of gravity affects heart physiology, I think your lifespan would be significantly shortened.
So I'm thinking that anyone deported in that circumstance would be bedridden for weeks and months.
Yeah.
The idea here is that you're learning to adapt enough to not bounce yourself off the ceiling when you're walking around. That is a very temporary adjustment. That is not the same as the long-term bone density bone loss adjustment or the cardiac function and blood pressure adjustment. So we know that in microgravity, fluids completely redistribute among the body. And so you get that sort of chipmunk look for astronauts because they actually have more fluid in their face and their head. We don't know what the right amount in between is of gravity to keep, can I say orthostatic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the right level of gravitational balance is for a human to keep a healthy orientation of blood flow and blood pressure, oxygen flow and pressure, blood calcium deposition through blood and bone metabolism.
Yeah.
And I'm not a biologist, that's her job.
Well, I was a bone biologist specifically, and I'll tell you that what happens is you get what's called cortical thinning. So if you think of your leg like your femur, is just like the easiest bone to think of. The actual think of it like a PVC pipe. The actual pipe part of it gets thinner, and that happens in microgravity. Also happens as you age, and that's what's happening is you're in the inside surface. You have an inside surface of the tube and an outside surface of the tube. Your inside surface is getting eaten up. The outside is not really building up because you don't need it, right? You're in microgravity, so your body's like, I don't need this, I'm cool. But then you get back to Earth, what happens? You're not rebuilding that inner surface, it's only adding to that outer surface. So what happens is your pipe is your leg slowly getting bigger, right? And that has biomechanical the actual biomechanics of your leg as a tube now become a tube. Your bone is now weaker because it is now bigger and a little thinner, right? If you fall, you break, you're more likely to break a hip. And it's a similar story with your spine, which is obviously not a tube, it's more complex. There's stuff that if it gets thinner, it'll get thicker, but not really. And it's not interconnected. And so, again, just the of it, we understand it cannot come back.
And if you go through puberty, warning the lower one, I don't think this level of gravity.
I would think so. I would think for Jazz, she will never have bones strong enough to withstand Earth's gravity, and if they do, they will never be as strong as yours were at 15. You know what I mean? Even 15. You don't even have to get to 20, really. Let's just say 15. Her bones would never get even to that peak strength just because the actual shape of them would not have developed correctly. And that, I know I'm not the expert here, but that my degree was in bone biology, I promise. Bone and muscle, actually.
Believe her, I didn't do the group.
So if that would affect that, the astronauts that have been in space for a year or something, do they ever recover from that?
Now that's a great question. What they have started doing, from what I understand, I think in the last few years, is putting them on a drug, what's called a bisphosphonate, which stops the bone from being reabsorbed. So they develop normally, obviously, because they're on Earth. They go up, to space, and basically the bisphosphonate stops their bone from actually being chewed up. And so when they come back, in theory, they have the same bone volume. They still lose a little bit, but it's not nearly as much. And I don't know which one they use, but that I believe that started a while ago.
Yeah, and the problem was that there's an ongoing feedback loop between the different subsystems in your body. And one of the feedback loops really is your biochemistry recognizes how much loading is happening on the bones.
Yep.
And if it says, well, I don't need this because there's a recognition of the compression and tension that's experienced, it's like, okay, we won't spend the time to metabolize all this calcium and deliver it to the place because we don't need it. So it just stops.
Yeah.
Okay. And so my idea is this drug would actually sort of undo that signal.
Yes. 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 It doesn't undo the lack of loading signal because that's felt through a different bone cell called the osteocyte, but it does stop any downstream activities related to the loss of that signal. But I do think they still, even with the bisphosphonate, you still get the spine decompression because that's not related.
Right. That's
That's
purely
pure load.
tension loading. So
Yeah. Anyway, take your walks. That's my take on this.
I love when you get all technical like that.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about bone and muscle in space. Could you still do exercise? Crazy weights.
So
I'd probably feel pretty good.
So 2 challenges there, 3 challenges.
Uh-oh.
Among the challenges,
Uh-oh.
One, because the weights are also less weighty.
The weights are less weighty.
Okay,
Whoa.
so in microgravity, they do resistance-based workouts, not weight-based. And so like the rubber bands and things like that. Second, you can only exercise so much. And so for some of the space missions and shuttle missions and station missions, you may be exercising 3-4 hours a day.
Ooh.
Hours per day.
4 hours a day.
So
I'm out.
So you can't just keep exercising more in order to overcome progressive atrophy, deloading, chemical reabsorption. So that's a really huge second problem. Mm-hmm. And third, we're not going to lift just plain dead mass onto a space vehicle because it's way expensive.
What about moon rocks? Put them on the end of the barbell. You know? Giant moon rocks. I feel so strong. Bodybuilding. Come on. Bodybuilding on the moon. Hey, I'm not being
Resistance
invited.
training is better. Okay.
Yeah. Lift your weights, take your walks.
Yes.
Yeah, crazy. And there's no muscle mimetics or exercise mimetics, so there's really nothing you can do about it. Although, not to brag, I have a little research that suggests that the bisphosphonates may also protect some muscle loss, but it's in a different context, not a microgravity. Anyway.
So actually, Andy doesn't go into a whole lot of that. Because,
not really.
And I can understand why he doesn't go into it, because all the people who are the main characters in the story are already in steady state. Yes. They are living there, and their food, their drink, all of their experience is based on maintaining their current standing or current status as Artemisians. They are not going back and forth. What he does get right then is that when you see the people from Earth trying to move around, they almost always overcompensate. And that was something that even as early as Apollo 11, those were reports from Buzz Aldrin coming back, because that was one of his experiments, was to figure out the locomotion process, and recognizing that going uphill, going on level ground, and going downhill required 3 different gait types.
Oh, wow.
So it's actually quite difficult to, if you are just visiting, as it were, to recognize what is the right level of gait, what is the right level of force in your these are your largest muscles that are used to working really hard, and now they don't have to. So that idea of getting it wrong is not surprising.
Yeah. Can I tell you the muscle that should scare you the most? Your diaphragm. Because that's also a muscle that will also atrophy. So forget being able to stand up. Are you going to be able to breathe?
Well,
If you come back.
that would make coughing a serious life-threatening
If
issue.
you're coming from Earth to moon gravity and you cough, you're absolutely correct.
You could pull something and it'd be bad.
Yeah, I think you could probably really hurt yourself.
And would hiccups kill you?
Would hiccups kill you on the moon? This is why we do this book club. This is what I'm here for, Barrett. Would a hiccup kill me?
That's not my area.
Come on, yes.
I think it would hurt.
It would. I bet you could crack some ribs.
Correct.
Sometimes it feels like you have hiccups on Earth.
I was going to say, hiccups on Earth hurt. By the way, peanut butter.
No, that would kill me.
No, okay, well, not for you. Peanut butter works for me.
Okay. I would say that hiccups would maybe not kill you initially. If you've had a lot of bone deloading, that there is a danger that you could crack a rib, because there is a danger now that you could crack a rib. I would actually think that the other concern is you'd accidentally launch yourself.
Oh, like the sneeze, achoo, and you just float.
Yeah.
You hit the ceiling, you're like, ow.
Yeah.
Moon allergies. God.
So
No allergies on the moon. I'm there.
who said that?
What? Now, Barrett, what am I allergic to on the moon? I'm gonna throw you in space jail, in science jail, if you tell me I can't even go to the moon to escape my allergies.
Okay.
We're coming into spring. This is a hot button topic.
Okay, so it's highly unlikely that an atmosphere without native pollens
Yeah.
would have anything that you're allergic to.
Okay.
But there are lots of things that people are allergic to, like foods.
That you know what? You got me there.
Okay, so if you are allergic to algae, and there's the idea of it ingestion or on your skin, so that could be dangerous for you.
That's true. Okay.
A long time ago, I knew of a person who was allergic to the enzymes of the spit of their own offspring.
Allergic to enzymes in the spit of the kids. Okay.
So
Horrifying.
yeah, I mean, this was quite unusual, and that person probably wouldn't get the visa to go to the moon. But think about it. What are you allergic to when you're allergic to cat hair? It's in a lot of cases, it's not the hair. It's something in the cat's saliva. So that is a thing that you could be allergic to saliva. You could be allergic to skin cells from other people.
That's true.
We don't know, but it's the worst than being allergic. Inhalation of regolith would be seen as a very, very severe, kind of like asbestosis sort of response.
Oh.
So that's worse than an allergy.
Yeah.
That's just damage.
Well, and I mean, they talk about in the book, you can't just like, hey, taxi, take me back to Canada. Hey, I'm done here. You're stuck. You have a medical emergency. You got to tough it out another 20 days.
If Dr. Russo can't fix you, then you're not going to get fixed for a while.
Yeah. So what is that when in the book they present Artemis as there's really two pieces of Artemis, right? There's like the people who live, work, their life is in Artemis, and then there's the big tourist aspect. Is that even something when you're thinking about long-term, like moon base, moon colony? Is that something you're even planning for? If you're NASA, are you going, we got to get the hotel started. Hey, the base is here. We got oxygen. Get the hotel going for the rich people. You know what? Is that even like in the plans, or is that we'll deal with that once we're comfortable? Because tourism's got to be high on the list.
It depends.
Come on.
It depends on how you want to pay for it. If
not with money.
Well, whose money?
whoever's
So-
buying.
So, well,
Jeff.
the whoever's buying is a tourism discussion or a commercial enterprise discussion. If it's just for waving the flag and expanding the realm of knowledge, that would be a government
Okay.
government management. And
Mhm.
by the way, what you just described of the people who are there for like versus the people who are there visiting for a little bit of work versus the people who are there for a vacation. You just described Antarctica. So there are people who go for the Southern Ocean tours. There are people who do summer research at the various bases, and even down to the actually going to be heading home now because we've used it sort of anecdotally
Okay.
as well as just comparatively
Mhm.
for what are some of the psychological effects. There's obviously limits to what we can do
Yeah.
physiologically, biologically, but we also know that there are very significant differences between the personality attributes of the people who winter over
Yeah.
at,
Oh.
at South Pole or McMurdo or other Antarctic stations versus the people who just visit for a while. And fun fact comparison: the altitude at Antarctica and at Antarctica, particularly at the South Pole, is probably somewhere between 6,000 and 9,000 feet altitude.
Oh wow.
So we are actually starting to look at some of the same physiological effects as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So it seems like there's a lot. It's not just a buy a ticket and go situation. It seems like even for visiting, there would have to be a lot of screening.
Yes, there would be, and you're going to think I'm making this up, but that was actually one of the ideas I had for my dissertation.
What?
Was to go to Antarctica for the winter. Okay. I was in my 20s,
Okay.
and if you remember being in your 20s, you think you can do stupid things.
You were immortal. Great.
But I was also married, and we had our first kid, and the idea of going to Antarctica, I mean, because if you go for winter over and you decide that maybe this is not for you, you don't just call an Uber.
Yeah.
You're still there for 7 or 8 more months.
Ooh.
Because it's too cold for the planes to fly in because the diesel fuel freezes and stuff. So it's really bad if you get down there and you can't stay. So I decided that it was much safer to do my dissertation at an isolated national park than to go to Antarctica. And I think my kids are grateful to this day that I didn't do the Antarctic research.
So you didn't go mad in the Antarctic. Yeah.
Yeah, that it's not a good look, and it really does damage one's interview potential. Yeah,
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of reflection that
lots of
happens.
downside.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So what if you talking about, I'm surprised that they didn't have greenhouses there and grow their own food.
I thought the same
We
thing.
treat it oxygen out, goes carbon dioxide, the plants breathe in carbon dioxide, out goes oxygen. When
Yeah.
that food is processed, still gonna eat algae, and it should be that common, it's good enough,
Yeah.
you wanna go in that direction, does that make sense?
You're right. There's no plants, no greenhouses, no vegetable growing.
Wrong answer.
Oh,
The algae is the plants they're growing.
the algae is the plants.
Okay.
Does that count as my vegetables?
No, they have the smelter. They have an inorganic process to make all the oxygen that they need. That is a reasonable point.
Really?
There are several ways to get oxygen out of the regolith, and there are several ways to get oxygen out of any ice that you find.
Oh.
So that's actually one of the reasons why the South Polar region is so exciting to people, because if you've got ice, you can make water, you can make rocket fuel, otherwise known as hydrogen peroxide. You can make oxygen for breathing. And by electrolysis, separating the hydrogen and oxygen, well, if you really want the hydrogen as a fuel, you can do that too, but you would also get some energy boost. So greenhouses are really inefficient the more complex the plants that you want. Algae is straightforward, and if you think about any of the biofilms that grow when you've got standing water, it's really we're stupid easy.
Yeah, but it's gross.
Well, it is gross. So better to be able to have something that you can actually recycle and eat rather than something that tasting algae, and don't add the mixed packets.
Don't add, the little ramen packets, skip it.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
The current mission, or the current sequence of missions, and like the book, like what engineering challenges are you?
That's a great question.
Most interested in, or most apparent that you need to be overcome?
Yeah.
What's stopping?
That's a great question. So for those of you on the live stream, from where we're at now to where we are in the book, what are the engineering challenges that we need to get through? What do you need to figure out, Barrett, before we can do this? Because you're the one figuring it out. I just complain about what we can't do.
How PG or R rated can I be?
We're R. I was gonna say we opened this with sex in space.
Okay. So the first thing that I start thinking of is how much mass you needed to launch to build the Armstrong and Aldrin parts, okay? Because you're building those in order to make everything else viable.
Yeah.
So most of that, you're either launching from Earth, we're talking metric shit tons.
Yeah. Official scientific value.
Yes, metric because it's larger. So metric shit tons of steel and aluminum.
Okay.
That's a lot. Or you have to have robotic smelting operations to be able to extrude the plate and the bar forms of the aluminum and steel. That's not trivial. We in Lafayette, we've got a Nanshan plant that does particular alloy steel for like light poles and things like that. It takes a multi-ton press to do that. I'm not really sure how you're going to do that for the first 10 or 20 years on the moon. What you didn't see in Artemis, Andy does talk about the sort of iceberg effect of there's a few stories above the ground and a lot of stories under the ground. If I had my druthers, I would rather find a lava tube that I can build everything underground and not have to dig for it. Okay, I just dig my way into the lava tube. I don't have to excavate to make the living areas. And for most of it, that's fine because you don't really need to have a great view of through the window of magnificent desolation that doesn't change.
What?
It's gray. It will be gray for the next couple billion years.
But I gotta check it. like checking the tongs, you know.
Okay, so you
Showers.
create a few cupolas above ground, but otherwise, from a radiation exposure, solar storm
Radiation.
exposure, meteorites. Oh, there are so many things that could mess you up. I would rather just be underground most of the time. So I saw someone making the complaint about that would upset people and that would ruin their day-night cycles. You're already on a 29-day day-night cycle, so that's not going to be your biggest problem. I really like the way that he said, okay, we do a 24-hour day based on some time zone on Earth. And it happened to be Nairobi because the Kenyans got really smart on how to manage that economically.
Yeah.
But the first generation of moon colony development, I've been thinking about Mars a lot this year. The first generation, as in 10, 20, 30 years of lunar colony development, lunar base development, is a really hard slog. And it was convenient that he passed over all that.
So you think it would be exponential? It would take a lot of work, and then once we get there, it would be a lot easier. Once we get base established, get the manufacturing, smelting, whatever.
Oh yeah, once you've got the robotic
Piece.
harvesters
Yeah.
going, and they know where they're supposed to be all the time, and there's nothing for them to run into. By the way, there are mines in Sweden with fully autonomous mining equipment that drive around underground. So you're not really using the same sort of GPS. You're using a different geographical reference capability. So that's possible. We don't have GPS. We're not going to have GPS. That's one of my favorite projects to be working on right now. So for the first 10 years of life on the moon, what technologies we need to know three things. Where are we? What time? And what did you just say? Yes, it would help a lot with the regulation. To the surface and convective to the ground underneath you, that's not going to go much of anywhere. It would retain it slowly, but it's still vacuum, so you don't want to go outside.
No, I do not. You're correct.
Right, and it's way too much. A decent-sized lava tube, I saw that one of the estimates is that one of the larger lava tubes that people are interested in may be able to contain the city of Philadelphia. Okay, that sounds really great in terms of, well, I won't have to worry about that collapsing on me. But if it does, that would be very bad.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to run out of space anytime soon.
Yeah.
And so that would be a much faster way of getting to 2,000 people than building those sorts of geodesic bus.
Okay. So we'll take that as artistic liberty.
Yeah.
Okay. So realistically, I mean, am I wrong in saying that this is being designed and thought of in present day?
Well, some people are the same way we've thought of Dyson spheres and other sorts of major engineering challenges. But remember, Jazz was cutting through this much aluminum. Okay, that's a lot of mass. Okay, it doesn't matter that it's easier to lift. That's still a whole lot of alloy. And you're talking about, and I love at the end when she's talking about what she puts into her dad's welding factory. So you've got civil grade aluminum, so 2024 or something like that. You've got hardened stainless steel. You've got some copper. She doesn't know why there's copper. That's fine. And you've got acetylene. You've got all these other stuff. Well, either your choices are you launch all that from Earth. Good luck with that. Or you make a bunch of it on the moon, but you've got to create the fundamental smell processes to make that type of aluminum alloy, that type of steel alloy. If you don't use the copper and there's probably not that much copper on the surface, so you might be doing that from the ground.
Okay.
But in Andy Weir's version of Artemis, there's no near-Earth object, asteroids or anything like that, that they're bringing other metals. The only in town are the Earth. You have to launch. Did any of you read the appendix? Yeah, that's like about how much it costs to buy a ticket, and then his estimate about what the price per kilogram would be.
No. What was it?
Oh, well, okay.
Okay.
This version does have an appendix about how much it would cost to buy a ticket. And so one of the fundamentals is that what we've been able to do in the past because you now have all these things shooting across your field of view all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that is someone who, or some people who are thinking about their version of the problem, not the other related piece of equipment if you fly one of our people.
Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, so there's no, yeah, so the moon is going, nobody else, it's not gonna be a US permission, everyone's gonna have to agree.
All of that is still under debate.
Okay.
So just last week, we had a discussion on the free campus about space policy. And
Okay.
the question of who owns stuff in space? Who owns dead satellites and rockets? Are you operating under maritime salvage? Or are you operating under collection of another country's property? So the rules that we have for international waters for Antarctica, there's treaties of the sea, treaties of Antarctica. The question is, will those treaties extend to lunar activity? One of the easy answers to the question for Antarctica is that there's not a lot of value there, but there is the possibility for a whole lot of economic value for accessing and extracting resources from the property. The question is, if you plant yourself there and say, my territory is not the whole moon, but my territory, are those Joseph?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm allergic to peanuts and tree nuts, but
Gotcha, get on it. We're so ready.
oh,
If any of you are in the live stream.
sorry for the distraction there. What was I talking about? I was talking about owning a piece of the moon. There will be exclusion zones. That's what we're currently thinking, so that you don't land next to somebody and mess up their stuff. Because if you have your rockets firing and you throw up all that regolith, then you're going to mess up somebody a kilometer away or a half kilometer away. So we're talking about exclusion zones. That means that whoever gets to that nice, sweet ice pocket first will sort of de facto own that because they're doing squatters' rights.
Squatters' rights. Okay.
Okay, not because this is a gilded age barren. The meat will inherit the earth, but not its mineral rights.
Direct quote.
Yes. The idea is that the Apollo sites can be a global heritage site because there's not that much interesting there, but there's going to be a whole lot of argument over who gets to land near a permanently shadowed crater or a helium source, because that's some money.
Yeah. Is that ultimately what's going to get us and keep us on is economic drivers?
It's why people bother to keep coming to the
I mean, oh, yeah. Yeah. And an asteroid being the easier way to get extract minerals than going to the moon and bringing it back. Yeah, but I feel like the asteroid would be a gamble. You don't know what
Okay,
you're getting.
there are two worries that I have about an asteroid. Compared to the moon, they're really small, which means anything you do will have a much larger effect on the asteroid itself. So if you try to drill into it, that force could influence the trajectory of the asteroid and could affect the tumble rate. And if it spins fast enough, it'll be harder for you to stay on it.
Because the asteroid in the bottom.
No, you're not. That's an extension of our orbit. Okay. A small enough, okay, something the size of a bus, by the time it gets through the atmosphere, isn't going to be worth enough for your effort. Something large enough to be worth your effort is going to vaporize large chunks of the body. Much better idea.
Okay, what if the asteroid is working around the Earth?
I'd like it small and far away, otherwise you just made Miami uninhabitable.
Well, it already is. I was gonna say. Well, and I lived there for a couple of years.
Well, I wasn't really thinking about, no, I'm not gonna go.
No. Yeah, be nice, be nice. Support Miami. The state of Indiana has beat every Miami team so far. I just need you all to be really gentle with me.
Okay, we'll be gentle, but if sea level rise is a problem, adding,
Okay.
yeah, that was my point. If you're worried about sea level rise, please don't add another body that will sometimes have constructive resonance with the moon to make tides bigger. So again, the things that are small enough to be easily managed are too small to be fun. The things that are large enough to be fun can mess you up.
And that's what we learned at last
You're not sorry.
How, exhaustive is our understanding of
Under the surface?
yeah, there's evolution on path that are able to get the holes will land on something unexpected.
Remember, Alaska was considered not worth.
That's what I'm saying.
So, the lunar reconnaissance orbiter and some of the other lunar satellites have done a really good job of trying to look at the surface composition of the moon. It's really hard to do. And we found out both on the lunar surface and the Martian surface, it's very hard to dig in to figure out what's going on underneath. You can do types of echolocation to see if it's hollow or solid, but to actually go all the way to X-ray diffraction to figure out what is the fine composition, that's very hard to do. And I know that my colleagues in Earth Atmospheric and Planetary Science want some people on the lunar surface so they can do those courses. So, yeah, that would be a great thing to find out. But again, yeah, the chances are good that you would find out other things that are there that you didn't necessarily know were there until you started.
Would you have a percentage of an estimate of how much we do know is on, based on the totality of what's on the moon versus how much we know? Do you think that's like a pretty good chunk of what, like we actually have a pretty good idea of what's up there? Or like we only know a very, it's like the bottom of the ocean. You know, like 5%.
Funny you should mention that,
Oh,
because I've actually heard an estimate that we know more about the surface of the moon than the bottom of the ocean.
terrifying, but okay. So we have some idea, but really not.
We have some idea, but there's still a whole lot of unknown and a whole lot of early stage knowledge
Yeah, okay.
about the behavior of the moon. Why are there moonquakes?
Don't like that. Jazz didn't tell me about that.
It should be done, actually. I think she did mention it.
Oh,
But
I'm a liar.
no, it was basically like, okay, yeah, the moon is sort of logically active.
I'm good. Fully trust you.
There are moonquakes.
I don't like that.
They can't be moonquakes. But, so I can't say it's geologically active.
Oh, okay.
So when
I'm picking up what you're putting out. Okay.
for the moon, so it would have to be selenity logically.
That's hard for me to say.
Okay, last question, and then I know we're over, so but there's, so you guys can we can keep talking.
We can keep chatting, but there may be POs that might. And like that's right. So go ahead.
For the purpose of designing.
Yeah. Unfortunately, once again, this is not my area, but yes, there are a lot of different issues going on. The moon does not seem to have a molten core at this point, so there's not the same level of dynamics between the core and the surface. We see that there is vibrational activity. How much of that is due to impacts versus thinking about, okay, you've got this day-night cycle, so half the moon is really cold and half the moon is really hot. And so that difference in temperature can create its own material stresses. But those stresses move around the surface of the moon over the course of the year. So that might be the cause. That would be interesting. We know that there's some activity going on, but we haven't been able to find the type of activity that we would see on Earth, or even the sort of activity that we've seen in some of the tectonic style activity on Earth. So it's active. Is it tectonic? Probably not. Is it volcanic? No, probably not. Is it? Well, there's the tidal forces of it's being stressed by the Earth, but it's also being stressed by the day-night cycles of the sun, and those would also have a tidal style of it. Don't they?
That's a good question for Lori. I feel like she would, Lori would probably next time she's in, we'll have to ask her. Well, I don't want to, I know you started late, so I wanted to go over my couple minutes, but I just want to thank you, Derek, for coming. I totally unexpectedly bringing swag, but thank you for coming and indulging in some of my weird questions. And I probably have more I guess, but I feel like I stressed you out with my just out the gate asking about sex and space. You know what?
No, I can hear it.
Yeah.
I have thought about this question. But I officially know that I can't officially know.
Okay, and this is where we get to the point where I say I hate, because you usually every time I talk to you, you say something that scares me, and I feel like that didn't happen today. So I'm really, but when you go, oh, I can't tell you, I know that, and that's where I go. What do you want about? What do you know? I don't want to know. What do you know? I don't want to know. You scare me. What I'm saying. You scared me. Wait, you're not, bitch.
I'm not saying I know, but I know some people who might know.
And that's that.
And the people who might know tell me that they're not allowed to talk about it.
Thank you so much. Right before we leave, I do next month for me at the end of April, we are reading Crossings by Ben Goldfarb. So if you are really mad at all the construction going on the highways, if you want to know the reason to be really mad at all of that road construction, definitely come join us next month. And also next month is our City Nature Challenge. If you've never done it, literally Google or go on Facebook, City Nature Challenge Indianapolis, and you can join our event on the Facebook page and learn more about how to download iNaturalist, how to once cross your fingers in a month of weather is goodness, and just warm and sunny and local project, it's global, so Indianapolis is just one of the cities that participates, but you can contribute actually contribute to ongoing research activities, not just here in Indiana, but really across the globe. It's a really cool opportunity, highly encourage this YouTube channel. And then again, thank you so much, Barry. Guys, let me get started. Great time.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Love that. I think my, amazing people. Thanking him for watching the thing. And he told us in our in his memoir to honestly in the rocket and Tony has confirmed that. So I'm feeling for that.
That is the